What's up, party people? Hope you guys are having a happy Halloween. It is October 31st, and welcome to your daily dose of truth-telling and deep dives. Whether you're lighting up our live chat right now or catching this from the future, you picked the perfect day to be here. I see a lot of our regulars rolling back into YouTube because we had technical difficulties a few minutes ago, and I also see you guys coming back on Instagram and TikTok. Y'all were already there, so I appreciate it. And if you're new here, trust me, you're exactly where you need to be. Now, a quick heads up, fam. This is going to be our last show of the week. I'm actually going to be heading out of town for a wedding celebration tomorrow. My sister-in-law is getting married. But don't worry, we're going to be going out with a bang because today's stories are absolutely wild. And speaking of wild, TikTok fam, if you guys are watching, let's see how fast we can get these likes up to 10,000. Smash that screen, guys. Smash it as hard as you can, as much as you can. And if you are watching from the future, please make sure to drop those comments. I do read all of those on YouTube. I often respond as well. Now, buckle up because we've got an absolutely packed show today. We're diving into some major developments into the Diddy investigation that are sending shockwaves through Hollywood, as always. We're talking federal grand jury testimony, explosive insider revelations, and some very interesting behavior from certain A-listers who seem to be playing an intense game of musical chairs with their associations right now. But before we even get into all that stuff, I'm going to have a story for you that's perfectly cheesy and you're going to love it, right? We're also going to be talking about some developments in the Tupac case, Keffe D's bail denial, and an unexpected twist with a key player in Tupac's saga walking free. Now, let's do the stuff where we got to pay the bills. You know how it goes. That's how we do things in family. I am talking to you about something that couldn't be more timely. Starting tomorrow, November 1st, we are officially in the holiday season, and I have been seeing so many posts, maybe it's my algorithms, across social media about the anxiety of explaining to kids why certain people aren't going to be at the dinner table this year. These conversations, they're happening everywhere in homes right now. And that's exactly why I created this book. It's the only one in existence like it because I have been there and I know how hard it is to find the right words. And if you haven't heard me talk about it before, 1 in 4 of us, that's 26% of millennials and Gen Z, have had to set hard boundaries or even cut contact with family members. That is millions of parents, y'all. I mean, how many in here, if you're watching this, no matter where you are, how many of y'all have had to cut family or limit contact because of just the way that they are? And it's a very complex situation to explain to confused kids, especially as holidays approach. Now, here's what makes this book different. It teaches kids about healthy relationships without creating trauma, helps them understand boundaries that aren't about being mean, they're about being healthy, respecting that peace. It also shows them what real unconditional love looks like, and most importantly, it lets them know that their family is perfect exactly the way it is, even if it looks different this holiday season. Listen, guys. We all want our kids to learn from our experiences without carrying our baggage, right? This is exactly what this book does. It's the conversation starter you need when those difficult questions come up. So if you are one of the millions of parents dreading those "why aren't we seeing so-and-so" questions this holiday season, this book is going to be your new best friend. Check out Justin on JustInTheNickOfCrime.com or TikTok Shop. Because our kids deserve to understand these things way earlier than we did, and there's no better time than right now. And a fun note on that, I am back in stock when it comes to hardcovers of Boundaries. They arrived yesterday. I got a limited quantity of them, so once they're out, they're going to be out until next year. So get them while you can. Now, these books, both of them are made for, my publisher put 4 to 8 on them, but I wrote them to go 4 to 12. My publisher just doesn't listen to me. Now, the next book we're going to talk about, and then we're going to get into it, because again, guys, got to pay those bills. As someone who covers true crime every day, there is something that keeps me up at night. How many tragedies could have been prevented if kids knew that they could just speak up? That's exactly why I wrote Surprises Are Okay, Secrets Are Not. And let's be real. With the holiday season starting tomorrow, kids are going to be spending more time with extended family and family friends. There has never been a more important time to have these conversations because here's the hard truth. Y'all might not want to hear it, but it's the reality. People who cause harm to children, that's not strangers most of the time in dark alleys. It comes from people that they know, people who use secret keeping as their weapon. This isn't another stranger danger book. Through the stories of these three friends, we teach something crucial: the difference between fun surprises like birthday presents, holiday gifts, and dangerous secrets. Why? Because predators often start small, testing boundaries with little secrets before escalating. This book is special because it's not scary. We use age-appropriate storytelling that empowers rather than frightens. It gives clear, practical guidance for both kids and parents. It shows real examples of when to speak up, and most importantly, it reassures kids that telling the truth will not get them in trouble. And you know what breaks my heart? When the victims say that they were afraid to tell or didn't know they could. With family gatherings and holiday events coming up, now is the perfect time to give our kids these tools. Because the most dangerous thing isn't strangers in shadows, it's the secrets children are afraid to tell. So again, head to JustInTheNickOfCrime.com or TikTok Shop to purchase either of these as a bundle or as individual books. Hardcovers and bundles always come with free shipping, and trust me, these are the conversation starters your family needs before the holiday season kicks into high gear, because every child deserves to know about boundaries and that surprises are okay, secrets are not. Now, lastly, before we get into it, whether you're watching on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook, please do me a massive solid that takes no time, costs nothing, but helps me out tremendously. Your engagement helps us reach more people who love this content. Hit those platform buttons, follow, subscribe, like, share, comment. Anything you can do is helpful. And without further ado, let's get into the show, guys. So here's the thing. I typically cover a lot of heavy things on here. So I felt, since this was the last show of the week for me and we have some fun things coming up, I wanted to give you a more lighthearted and cheesy news story. And I mean it, guys, when I say cheesy. And I'm going to tell you what might be the most sophisticated heist in the world of artisanal dairy. The Great Cheddar Caper of 2004. You think I'm joking, but I'm not. And this is serious. But it's funny, but it's serious. You might think that fine art or diamonds would be the target of master thieves, but apparently some criminals have developed quite the refined palate. Neal's Dairy Yard, which is one of Britain's most prestigious cheese companies, received what seemed like a perfectly legitimate order back in July. The order was so massive, 22 tons of handcrafted cheddar, that they had to reach out to 3 different dairy farms to fulfill it. This wasn't just any cheddar, guys. We are talking about 950 wheels of some of the finest cloth-bound cheddar that you can find. All right. The thieves, lost my place. There we go. Pulled off what they can only be described as an elaborate long con. They posed as wholesale distributors from a major French retailer. Think about the audacity of that, guys. They managed to convince Neal's Yard warehouse staff that everything was completely above board. The company, trusting as good as any cheese merchant would be, dutifully sent out their cargo in September, expecting payment by October 7th. But then, as Jamie Oliver, so Cullery, put it on his Instagram to his followers, these big cheese con thieves simply vanished into thin air along with $390,000 worth of premium cheddar. Just gone. Oliver even warned his 10.5 million followers to be on the lookout for suspicious amounts of posh cheese on the black market. Quipping, and you can't make this up, if the deal seems too Gouda to be true, it probably is. The impact of this theft goes beyond the monetary value. For context, the amount stolen equals the entire annual production of Hafford cheese. An entire year's worth of artisanal cheese production disappeared in one fell swoop. And yet, in a touching display of business ethics, Neal's Yard Dairy made sure to pay all 3 artisan cheesemakers in full, even though it will take them years to recover from this loss. Now, London police are on the hunt for what might be the world's most sophisticated cheese thieves, but Neal's Yard has put out a call to cheesemongers worldwide to be on the lookout for suspicious cloth-bound cheddars, particularly ones in 10 kilogram or 24 kilogram formats with their tags mysteriously missing. And as David Lockwood, one of Neal Yard's partners, noted with a touch of irony, this would make for a great action comedy, and he's right. Ocean's 11 meets Chef's Table, guys. Now, I imagine the getaway scene might have been slowed down by 22 tons of carefully aged cheddar, but next time you're at a cheese stop and someone offers you a suspiciously good deal on some premium British cheddar, maybe ask a few more questions. After all, somewhere out there's a group of thieves arguably trying to sell the most sophisticated cheese board in criminal history. Now, this is a story that you guys have wanted me to talk about. The 19-year-old Gersa Moran Carr from Halifax, Canada, Nova Scotia, who died in an oven in Walmart. I have been asked probably 100 times to talk about this, and I've been so enthralled and enmeshed with everything regarding Diddy that I did not get a chance to do it. So I did a deep dive, and we're going to talk about it right now. In the event that you don't know about this, we'll have a quick catch up, and we're going to talk about what's going on, okay? And we're going to show a video here in a moment. So if you are on TikTok, you might want to jump over to YouTube, which you can get to by going through the link that is in my bio. It will take you directly to my YouTube, because we're going to be showing something here in a few minutes. Now, for those of y'all who don't know, the picture showing, again, is 19-year-old Gerson Moran Carr. And initially, when this came out, it seemed like a horrific workplace accident. But as details began to emerge, we were faced with disturbing questions about how someone could end up baked to death in an industrial oven that was specifically designed to prevent such tragedies. So let's just start with the devastating day, October 19th, 2024. Carr, who had just moved to Canada with dreams of a better future, was working her regular shift alongside her mother at the Walmart bakery. Everything seemed normal until she became unreachable. For those who knew her, this was really unusual. She always kept her phone on during shifts to stay in touch with her mother, who worked in the same store. When her mother began asking about her daughter's whereabouts, other employees brushed off her concerns. She's probably helping customers. Now, it's worth noting this casual dismissal of her mom's growing panic, but what happened next is absolutely chilling. Someone noticed, for lack of a better word, leakage coming from the walk-in oven. Her mother followed this horrific clue and made the devastating discovery that her daughter's charred remains were inside that oven. Now, this is where the story takes an even darker turn. Multiple Walmart employees have come forward to explain why this simply couldn't have been an accident. The industrial oven, according to these workers, has multiple safety features that would have had to fail simultaneously or deliberately be overridden for this to happen. Now, let's look at the physical impossibility as explained by a former Walmart employee. Her name is BREEZIE, and you know what? Let me just show you the video, and then we can talk about it. And just for the record, all credit for this video goes to BREEZIE, and I did link her TikTok account in the description, YouTube notes for this, and for those people who want to go show support and follow her. But let me get this pulled up. If you are watching on TikTok, you will not hear it or see it, so don't ask that question. You have to go over to YouTube to do it. But let's go ahead and play it.
This is our oven at work, Walmart. The oven turns on from the outside. This is the handle. You have to pull it really hard to open it. This is the inside. The oven is hot right now. I don't even know if I would fit in here, honestly. I'm 5'1", medium built. I would have to crouch down to get in. There's no emergency latch in here, but I would never be in here. Whether I'm cleaning it or not, I would not be in the oven. Now for the oven to close and lock, you have to push this with all your might and pull the handle to the side and lock it in place. There is no way possible somebody could lock themselves in there. Now somebody could throw me in there and lock me in there, but that's a whole different scenario.
So you get to see what it looks like. Chris demonstrated that even at 5'1", she would need to crouch down to enter the oven. There is no reason any employee would ever need to go inside. No cleaning requirements, no maintenance tasks, nothing. The controls are designed, and they're to be located outside. And most importantly, the door mechanism is designed with multiple safeguards. To lock this oven, you need to perform two distinct actions. You need to push the latch with significant force and pull the handle sideways to lock it in place. This isn't something that happens accidentally, as another employee named Mary emphasized in her viral video. It just doesn't make any sense. The door does not close by itself. It's designed to not do that. The emergency call or emergency dispatch call reveals even more disturbing details. Let me try to get this fixed back up real quick. My picture's up here. There we go. Multiple coworkers were present when first responders arrived. The oven was running, and the staff claimed they didn't know how to turn it off, which I find like there's not a breaker somewhere for something like that you can't turn off. Think about that. In a bakery department where these ovens are used daily, suddenly no one knows how to use the oven or operate a power switch. Then there's emergency release latch inside the oven, a standard safety feature that would allow anyone trapped inside to escape easily. This oven had multiple fail-safes. So for Carr to have died in that to die in that oven. There we go. Either the release mechanism failed, which would be a catastrophic safety violation, or something or someone prevented her from using it. The police investigation has notably shifted in tone. Initially treated as a workplace accident, they're now describing it as a complex case requiring multiple investigative agencies. The store remains closed. I think somebody in notes just said they will be reopening tomorrow, I think somebody said, with a specific stop work order for the bakery equipment. This suggests they're finding elements that don't align with a simple accident scenario. Now, the Maritime Sikh Society has rallied around Kaur's family, raising over $67,000 to help her bring her father and brother from India to Canada. Because they were in the U.S. or in Canada, sorry, and the father and brother were still over in India. She had moved to Canada. She's a teenager with dreams of building a better life. She worked alongside her mother while her father and brother, as I said, were in India, which is a common story of immigrant families making sacrifices for a brighter future. But instead, her mother, who thought she was watching her daughter achieve those dreams, made the most horrific discovery imaginable. Looking at all these elements together, the physical impossibility of accidentally locking oneself in the multiple failed or bypassed safety features, the unusual behavior of staff that day, and the emergency call details, were left with disturbing questions about what really happened in that Walmart bakery. As one employee put in their TikTok video, someone could throw me in there and lock me in, but that's a whole different scenario. The investigation continues, and I will make sure to be bringing you guys up to date as we get more information. But one thing is clear: the circumstances surrounding this young woman's death demand answers that go far beyond a simple workplace accident. Now, again, I told you because that there were a few stories I wanted to share with you outside of Diddy today. There is some Diddy stuff, but for the first time in 40-some-odd days, there wasn't an entire episode of Diddy stuff, but these are all important stories that I think you should know, and this one is another one that's going to be pretty horrific, and this story strikes particularly close to me because I'm the parent, as a lot of y'all may know or may not know, my daughter was a 29-weeker preemie. And when you have a child in the NICU, you're forced to place an unprecedented level of trust in the medical team. You have to walk away from your tiny, incredibly vulnerable little infant every night, relying on professionals to not just provide care, but to be as invested in your child's survival as you are. The case of baby Jaxi Peets revealed a horrible, horrifying breach of trust. She was born at 24 weeks via emergency C-section at the Orlando Health Winnie Palmer Hospital back in June of 2022. Jaxi was even more premature than my own daughter, and anyone familiar with micropreemies knows that these babies are incredibly delicate. Their bones are soft, their skin nearly translucent, and every touch must be measured and gentle. What makes this case particularly chilling are the specific details. Initially, there were no signs of birth trauma. Like most extreme preemies, Jaxi was immediately intubated and placed in the NICU, standard protocol that I remember vividly from my own experience. But 2 weeks later, an MRI revealed something that sends shivers down the spine of any NICU parent. Her neck had been broken. The medical experts are unequivocal. This type of spinal cord injury cannot occur without excessive force. As someone who remembers the meticulous care NICU nurses took to even just adjust my daughter's position, the level of force required to cause such an injury is unfathomable. What follows in the complaint is perhaps even more disturbing, though, that there was allegedly no documentation of the incident, no investigation noted in medical records, and perhaps most shockingly, no police notification. The complaint also suggests that whoever caused this catastrophic injury simply just placed baby Jaxi back in her incubator without alerting anyone. And the words of Jaxi's mom, Gianna, are heartbreaking. We only held her 4 times in her entire life. And I'm going to tell you something without trying to get emotional. It was like 12 days before I could hold my own daughter. For my wife, it was like 7, and she was a 29-weeker. And those moments were cherished because you had to wait. And they were hard and they were difficult. For those of y'all who did not have NICU babies, imagine having a baby and not even being able to touch them. It's horrific to go through it. I promise you. And so as a NICU parent, this resonates deeply because those precious first holds are moments we count and cherish. And the thought that some of those rare moments were stolen because of alleged negligence or worse is devastating. During their October 21st press conference, the parents' pain was palpable. Gianna, through tears, expressed what every NICU parent fears. Our heart is broken because we could not protect ourselves from Winnie Palmer Hospital, the place where she was supposed to be the safest. Her words about never hearing her daughter cry, never celebrating milestones, never introducing her to siblings. These are moments every NICU parent dreams of reaching, making that loss even more profound. The hospital's response has been notably reserved, as they always are, saying that they will not address specific medical cases publicly, while acknowledging that caring for extremely premature babies is complex and emotional work. While this is undeniably true, I witnessed this complexity firsthand, it doesn't address the fundamental question of how such a catastrophic injury could occur and allegedly go unreported. From my personal experience in the NICU, I know the intense protocol surrounding every aspect of care. Each touch, each adjustment, each procedure is documented meticulously. The absence of documentation in this case is particularly alarming. The complaint alleges this suggests an attempted cover-up, and given the standard NICU practices that I've witnessed, it's difficult to imagine how such a serious injury could go undocumented without deliberate omission. The parents are now seeking justice through the legal channels, but as any NICU parent knows, no compensation will ever be able to make up for these lost moments, these stolen opportunities, or this profound breach of trust, where trust is absolutely essential. Now, let's switch gears for a second and get into the stuff you want to talk about. And we're going to start with Tupac because that's coming up. Because that, in my opinion, involves, Diddy as well, in my opinion. So the latest developments, though, in the Tupac murder case feel like something straight out of a crime drama, y'all. I promise you, though, it's all real. So Dwayne Keffe D. Davis, who you can see in the photo up here. If you're on TikTok, you cannot see it. You have to be on YouTube. The man charged with Tupac's 1996 murder has just had his second attempt at bail denied. And y'all, here are the details. They're kind of wild. So here's what went down. In a Las Vegas courtroom, Davis's legal team is trying to secure his release on a $750,000 bond. Now, they already tried this back in July with $112,500 down payment. There we go. But here's where it gets interesting. The money allegedly came from music executive Cash, or Whack 100, Cash Jones, known as Whack 100. But there was a catch. The payment was tied to an exclusive interview with Davis. So Judge Carly Kearney wasn't having any of that. And here's why. Under Nevada law, criminals can't profit from their crimes. The prosecution argued that this interview deal was essentially doing exactly that. Now, Davis's lawyers tried to counter this by saying he hasn't been convicted yet, so that law doesn't apply. But that wasn't even the biggest issue, guys. Fast forward to this week's hearing, and this is where things get a little bit messy. Keffe D's team shows up with what they claim is documentation proving the bond money is legitimate. But here's the thing. They submitted not one, but two letters that were literally copy and pasted from each other. I'm not saying similar. I'm saying identical. Identical. And the details, they couldn't have been more suspicious if they tried. One letter was signed by someone who has zero known connection to Whack 100's production company. The other, not only was the name misspelled, but get this, the address they provided turned out to be a doctor's office. You cannot make this stuff up, guys. Now, when confronted about these obvious issues, Davis's lawyer, Carl Arnold, had to admit something was pretty damning. A bail bond agent had just provided a copy and paste wording for both letters. The prosecutors immediately jumped on this, pointing out submitting false documents to the court is a felony. So now we've got potential criminal charges for the bail bond agent, too. Judge Kearney summed up perfectly when she said, I have a sense that things are trying to be covered up, and that, Your Honor, is putting it mildly. But here's what's really significant about all this. The trial, which I was very excited because it was supposed to start next month on November 4th, has now been pushed to March 17th, 2025. So that is another 5 months of waiting before answers in a case that has already had 28 years of waiting for answers. Think about that. Tupac has been gone longer than he was alive, and we're still unraveling the truth about his death. The fact that Keffe D can't secure bail despite multiple attempts and the suspicious nature of these documents suggests there's a lot more to this story than what we're seeing on the surface. Are people still trying to cover their tracks in a murder that happened nearly 3 decades ago? And what does it tell us about the music industry's darker side that a current music executive might be trying to profit off this tragedy with an exclusive interview deal? These aren't just rhetorical questions, y'all. They're exactly what investigators and prosecutors are trying to unravel. And now with the trial being pushed to 2025, we're left waiting for answers while Davis remains behind bars, unable to profit from his alleged role in one of hip-hop's most notorious unsolved murders. The question isn't whether Davis will be convicted, it's how many more layers of deception and cover-ups will be revealed before we finally get the full truth of what happened that night in Vegas in 1996. Now, the timing of this next story is also perfect based on that story, and I'm going to have to give you all a little bit of a history lesson as we talk about this. Because as we're discussing Keffe D's bail denial in Las Vegas, another major player in Tupac's saga has quietly walked out of prison, guys. 2 days ago, Walter King Tut Johnson, the man Tupac himself named as his shooter in the infamous 1994 Quad Studios incident, has just been released after 27 years behind bars. Now, for those of y'all who don't know about the Quad Studio shootings, it was a pivotal moment that changed music history, particularly in the hip-hop world, forever. Let me give you a little background. On November 30th, 1994, Tupac Shakur was headed to the Quad recording studios in Manhattan to record a verse for Little Sean, who was associated with Biggie Smalls' camp. Now, this was before any of the East Coast, West Coast beef. In fact, this was at the point where Tupac and Biggie were still friends. Now, when Tupac arrived at the building with just a few associates, including his manager, Freddie Moore, and some men in army fatigues, approached them while in the lobby. Initially, Tupac thought they might be Biggie's security since he knew his friend was upstairs in the studio. But instead, they pulled firearms and demanded jewelry and money. Tupac, being Tupac, resisted. During the struggle, he was shot 5 times. Twice in the head, once in the arm, and twice in the groin. But despite these injuries, because Tupac is a gangsta, he managed to make it up to the 8th floor studio where Biggie, Puffy, Little Sean, and others were recording. Now, here's where the incident becomes a turning point. While recovering in prison because he was serving time for an unrelated SA case. Now, real quick, let me explain the overlap here before we go further, okay? Because he got shot and then was serving time recovering, right? So in 1994, Tupac was dealing with several legal issues, the most serious of which was an SA case out of New York where he was accused alongside his road manager, Charles Fuller, and others. Then, on November 30th, 1994, that was the night of the Quad Studio shooting, Tupac was out on bail awaiting the verdict in that case. But the very next day, December 1st, 1994, while still recovering from 5 gunshot wounds, Tupac had to appear in court for the verdict. He was found guilty of first-degree SA, though acquitted of more serious charges and sentenced to 1.5 to 4.5 years in prison. Let me just repeat this real quick, guys. Dude gets shot, still goes up to the studio, goes to the hospital, and then shows up at court after being shot 5 times. That's real, guys. That's real. Now, the timing was crucial because while recovering in prison from both his injuries and processing this conviction, Tupac had time to analyze the Quad Studios incident. And Tupac was smart. He was incredibly intelligent, and he began to piece together what he believed was a larger conspiracy. In various interviews from prison, including a famous one with Kevin Powell from Vibe, Tupac laid out his theory that the shooting was connected to various industry figures. It was during this time, in his prison stint, that Tupac's perspective of many of his former friends, particularly Biggie and Bad Boy Records, dramatically shifted. He signed with Death Row Records while still incarcerated, with Suge Knight helping to pay his bail appeal. And when he was released in October of 95, he emerged as a completely different figure in hip-hop. More confrontational, more suspicious, and ultimately set on a path that would lead to the escalation of the East Coast-West Coast rivalry. Tupac became convinced that this wasn't a random robbery. He believed it was a setup, specifically naming 3 people: Walter King Tut Johnson, who we just discussed being released, Jacques Haitian Jack Agnet, and James Jimmy Henchman Rosemond. But what really sparked the infamous East Coast-West Coast rivalry was Tupac's belief that Biggie knew about the attack beforehand and didn't warn him. He pointed to several suspicious elements: that the attackers knew exactly when he would arrive, that Biggie, Puffy, and others were upstairs but didn't come down during or immediately after the shooting, and that the robbers only took jewelry but left an expensive ring that Tupac was wearing. After this incident, the relationship between Tupac and Biggie completely deteriorated when Tupac later signed with Death Row Records. After getting out of prison, this personal beef escalated into the broader East Coast-West Coast rivalry that would ultimately contribute to both artists' death. Now, the Quad The Quad Studios shooting is considered the match that lit the powder keg. 2 years later, Tupac would be fatally shot in Las Vegas, and 6 months after that, Biggie would be killed in L.A., and neither murder was officially solved, and still really isn't until recently when Keffe D got arrested in the Tupac case. Now, I'm sorry, that was, believe it or not, the most condensed version of that I could give you to be able to make you guys understand this story. So with that history lesson out of the way, let's keep going, because this is where things get fascinating. So Johnson, who's now 61, wasn't actually in prison for shooting Pac. He was serving 5 life sentences on robbery charges under the 3 strikes law. But here is the wild part. The same judge who gave him those sentences in 1997 had a complete change of heart. Judge Frederick Block, in what has to be one of the most remarkable judicial about faces I've ever seen, essentially admitted that his original sentence was excessively harsh, and he wrote, and I'm quoting directly here, "Judges gain insights that with the passage of time can only come with experience on the bench in their judicial maturation. For those who might not know the significance of the Quad Studio shootings, we talked about that a few minutes ago. It changed everything, though. Right? Right? And so, hold on, I got to get past my notes because I lost my place. So he decides basically to let him out. Right? Tupac believed that not only Johnson shot him, but that Biggie knew about it and the plot didn't warn him. Named everybody else. He also had some one-liner notes in his final album, The Don Cluminati, The 7-Day Theory. But Johnson's return to society, the way it was announced is a little weird. He was pictured with rapper Uncle Murda, who posted on Instagram announcing, "Welcome home, King Tut, Brooklyn East, New York legend." The casual nature of this homecoming for someone Tupac named as his attacker shows just how complex and intertwined these relationships in hip-hop remain even decades later. So here we are in 2024 with Keffe D's behind bars awaiting trial for the Las Vegas shooting that ultimately took Pac's life, while the man accused of starting this tragic chain of events in Quad Studios walks free. It really makes you wonder about justice, timing, and how the past never really stays buried, especially in the hip-hop history. This story is still developing. More is coming out. You will be updated as soon as we have more developments, but I would love y'all to drop your thoughts in the comments below what you think about the latest twist in this decades-long Tupac saga. Now let's get into the Diddy stuff, guys. Let's get into the Diddy stuff. Diddy had a bit of a win. He did. He had a bit of a win. U.S. District Judge Mary Kay Viscasil has ruled that the Tennessee woman who accused Sean Combs of R must reveal her identity or her case will be dismissed. She can't be Jane Doe. The judge called her arguments for anonymity wholly meritless, setting a November 13th deadline for the accuser to file her real name, under her real name, sorry. This is the case that centers on allegations from 2004 when the woman was a 19-year-old college student, claimed she was assaulted at a Manhattan hotel. Her legal team, which is led by Tony Busby, argued that she needed anonymity due to potential harm and mental distress. However, the judge dismantled these arguments point by point. Particularly notable was the judge's response to concerns about potential threats. The judge pointed out that Combs has had no contact with the plaintiff for approximately 20 years since the alleged R, and Combs is currently detained pending trial. She found the plaintiff's lawyers provided no concrete evidence of potential harm beyond the historical threat allegedly made in the 2004 incident. This ruling could have cascading effects, though, y'all. This is why it's important. It could have cascading effects on another anonymous lawsuits against Combs. Busby has established an 800 number hotline and claims to represent over 150 potential victims and has filed multiple anonymous lawsuits in the Southern District of New York. The judge emphasized that other accusers, including Cassie Ventura, have had their real names in litigation, and she stressed that while public scrutiny might be difficult for the accuser, that doesn't override Combs' right to defend himself in the public's interest in transparent judicial proceedings. The timing is particularly significant as Combs' defense team is simultaneously fighting in criminal court to have his prosecutors identify his accusers. They argue they can't properly prepare for his May 2025 trial while facing what they call an onslaught of baseless allegations from anonymous sources. When Busby filed the suit under the Victims Gender-Motivated Violence Protection Act, it was one of 6 anonymous complaints filed on November 14th. That act, for those of y'all who don't know, provides a 2-year window ending in March 2025 for older claims to be filed. The complaint details disturbing allegations. The accuser says she was invited to a photo shoot in Brooklyn, then an exclusive party at Combs' hotel. There, according to the filing, she and another freshman were separated, given drinks, ordered to use the white powdery stuff up your nose, and subjected to SA under threat of violence. Combs' defense team maintains his innocence across all cases, stating Monday that they have full confidence in the facts and the integrity of the judicial process and that the truth will prevail, that Mr. Combs never SA'd or trafficked anyone, man, woman, adult, or minor. Now, I say it with that tone and cadence because that's the same exact response we always get from them. Now, I got a short, new, weird kind of update to give you. So, Ty Sticklorius, John Legend's manager, wrote an op-ed in the New York Times today, October 31st, 2024, about a terrifying situation she experienced at a party hosted by Sean Diddy Combs in the late 90s. She described being locked in a bedroom at the party in St. Bart's, but eventually talking her way out. She later realized that the experience was not isolated, but rather an example of pervasive culture of misconduct in the music industry. And I bring that story up, even though it's very, very short, as another person who's not asking for anything, but sharing a weird situation that she encountered at a Diddy party. Now, Wendy Williams broke her silence. And then I got a really interesting JLo story for you guys. Let me give you this focus take on Wendy Williams' perspective, given her unique history with Diddy in the industry. So, Wendy Williams has finally broken her silence on the Diddy case, and her response carries particular weight given their tumultuous history in the entertainment industry. She said, quote, "It's about time," end quote, to the Daily Mail, referring specifically to the Cassie assault video that she called horrific. What makes Williams' commentary especially noteworthy is her long-standing role as an industry insider who allegedly faced retaliation from Diddy years ago. According to multiple sources, including Charlemagne the God and Diddy's former bodyguard, Gene Deal, Wendy Williams was allegedly forced out of her Hot 97 radio position in 1998 due to Diddy's influence. Deal provided particularly detailed allegations about Diddy's power in the industry at that time, claiming the quote-unquote, mother effers didn't breathe hard if Puff didn't want them to. According to Deal, Diddy threatened to orchestrate a complete music boycott of Hot 97 if they didn't remove Williams from her position. Within 3 days, she had been relocated to a Philadelphia radio station. The timing of Wendy's comments is particularly significant in this case, as they come while she deals with her own health issues, yet she felt compelled to speak out. What is really weird is that I've been told, this is what they said, quote, "What is really weird, I've been told by so many people, Wendy, you called it." She shared that, noting that even her family members have made similar observations. Now, Williams raised alarming questions about the scope of the allegations, asking how many more times, how many more people, how many more women, and now men. These questions seem especially pertinent now as Diddy continues to face lawsuits every single week against new abuse victims while he continues to appeal for bail. The perspective of her as a former industry leader who claims to have experienced Diddy's influence firsthand adds just another layer to the ongoing legal developments. All right? I bring these up when we can because I think that it paints a larger picture, because these are people that have nothing to gain by telling their stories. Now, typically when I do this, guys, I try to type out these stories so I have kind of a good talk track and can talk to you about it, just being transparent with y'all. This one I did not have time to do because it came up, and this involves JLo. And this story, I've not had a chance to deep dive the way that I want to deep dive on this one, but this is interesting. And this is another one, TikTok fam, that you're not going to be able to see. I did a video about it, so I guess you can go see it in the pictures on the video, but I'm going to show you pictures here that just emerged, brand new photos involving JLo and Diddy. So if you want to jump over, you absolutely can to the YouTube. If you go there, make sure to follow, subscribe, whatever. These are brand new photos that just emerged. All right. These are from September 7th, 2000, and that date is very significant. I'm going to tell you why after I tell you what's going on in these photos. On September 7th, 2000, this was taken at the Lotus Club. All right? JLo and Diddy apparently get into a spat. Photos are taken. There is many people that noticed it. And that bottle of Cristal that you see in Diddy's hand there, he had one of those continuously flowing throughout the night. Guys, you got to remember back in the early 2000s, late 90s, Cristal was the champagne of choice. And so it was flowing. and he was partying in Diddy fashion when they got into a fight. Now, I don't know what the fight was about. People don't know what the fight was about. But they got into a spat that ultimately led into JLo shouting and walking away. Now, let me change the photo here real quick for y'all. There we go, from a wider angle to show how many people were there and what was there in close proximity. She walks away, and a short while later, Puff leaves the event with a group of women. Why is this significant? Y'all remember the 13-year-old that was accused of being gang-ard by Diddy? This was the same night. It was the same night. September 7th, 2000. So they have a fight. Diddy walks off. JLo walks off. And a 13-year-old girl is allegedly AR'd. Same night. Curious, right? Now, let me couple that with another story that we've talked about in the last couple days, and that's JLo's response to all of this. Yesterday, I talked about the fact that JLo was at an autograph signing event, and somebody asked her nothing really pertinent, nothing really damning, but just what's going on, you know, with all the mounting allegation. Do you have anything to say, any comment on all the stuff going on with Diddy? And when Diddy's name was brought up, she literally stopped mid-signature, gathered her things, got up, and quickly hurried out the exit. Literally ran away from the situation. That type of silence is deafening. Now, look, I realize that nobody wants to be associated with Diddy right now. It is career suicide. It was career suicide. But that being said, what I don't understand from these celebrities, nobody is coming out condemning what he's being accused of. They're not saying anything. It would take nothing for somebody like JLo to say something along the lines of, look, guys, we dated 25 years ago. It's been a quarter century. I didn't know he was doing it back then or whatever. Or, you know, it's been a long time, and I don't remember a lot of things that happened back then. Or you can say it's been a long time. Regardless, I stand with the victims. If something happened, you know, I hope that they get justice. It's really easy to say something like that. It's easy to say something generic that doesn't implicate yourself and say, I stand with the victims. If these are true, I stand with them. I want them to receive justice. It takes nothing to do that. And it's not just JLo. I'm not going to put it only at JLo. But let me tell you what else is just the loudest silence I've ever heard is getting up when his name is mentioned mid-autograph and running out of the room. Running out of the room. That is what happened, y'all. She effing ran away. It's insane. And not there. I've never seen Hollywood quiet when things like this happen. It's bizarre. And again, it's one of those things, either you're on the tapes or you're not on the tapes. And I get it. Part of the reason why Hollywood is silent is because they don't know if they're on the tapes or they're not. They don't know what the feds know or have seen. They don't know what Diddy has told the feds, if anything. So it's easy for them to be quiet while they wait for the other shoe to drop. But here's the thing. Diddy sat here and said, you know that half the time that these celebrities come out, they don't mean half of what they say. You know, if they apologize or whatever, they don't mean it. They're just doing things for PR. Diddy comes out and denies the Cassie situation vehemently till the video surfaces. Then he apologizes for it. So I don't understand why celebrities can't treat it the same way. Hey, we stand with the victims. You know, yes, I've been close to Diddy for years. We didn't know this was going on. I stand with the victims. And if it comes out that you're on a tape, guess what? Your career's already screwed. So if you lied about it, then it's not going to make any difference. It's not going to screw your career over even more. Your career's still going to be done. So why not at least come out and be supportive of these victims? Right? Like, I don't understand why they're not doing this. And this goes for so many of them. This goes for JLo. It goes for Beyonce and Jay-Z. It goes for Ashton Kutcher. It goes for, you know, Leo. It goes for all these other rappers and musicians and anybody else who was there. Why can't you say that? You're on the tapes or you're not on the tapes, guys. It takes you nothing to stand with victims, and more people would not be naming you if you came out to do that. Right? People would be more on your side. Like, hey, I'm standing with the victims. I condemn what Diddy did What he allegedly did, I condemn those actions. I stand with the victims. It takes nothing to do that. Even if you don't mean it, it takes nothing to do that. There's already pictures floating out there, so we already know who knew him in a lot of cases. Just say that. Have your PR. Put out a statement. Put it on Twitter, or X. Put it on Instagram. Make a statement. I stand with the victims. I condemn what Diddy's been accused from. Even you saying I condemn what Diddy's been accused of isn't you admitting that he did it. You're just condemning what he's been accused of. And I will stop complaining about that. Because right now, them being quiet isn't good for them either. Now, there are a couple comments I want to address here on the thing, and I'm not going to pick on this one person. I saw a comment I wanted to talk about because this is, where did it go? I'm not picking on Catherine when I say this, but I want to put this comment up there. So the comment was, I'd like to know what a 13-year-old was doing out in the middle of the night. And then with the 10-year-old, people ask questions about that too. What about the parents? Here's the thing. I would not leave my child alone with anybody. Okay? I wouldn't. But 2005, when the 10-year-old happened, and 2000 were very, very different times. I was born in 1982, and I was raised in a time where my parents didn't know where I was half the time. You came home when it was dark. You went over to your friend's house. You snuck out as a teenager. The question is, I want to know why the 13-year-old was out in the middle of the night. It doesn't matter why she was out. It doesn't matter why she was out. It doesn't matter that the 10-year-old's parents weren't there. Should they have been? Yeah, probably, especially knowing what we know now. The only person that is responsible for what happened to Diddy, or because of Diddy, is Diddy. It is not the result of anybody else taking faith and trusting, or a teenager being a teenager in 2000 and sneaking out. Do you know how many times I snuck out from the time I got my license? Y'all, I drove a stick shift, and when I knew that I was going to be sneaking out that night, I would park my vehicle on a hill so that I could roll away from my house and pop start that car, be halfway down the street, so my car made no noise when I started it. We were sneaky about it, and I would go over to girls' houses who would sneak me in the basement, or we'd go out together. Parents don't always know, but that's how it was. Back then, most parents did not care what we did. They were, you guys know how it is. It just is. Now, again, I'm not blaming the parents here. And I found out some information about the 10-year-old as well, that the parents actually hired a consultant who was able to do this, that was supposed to be looking after this 10-year-old. That should have happened. So my point is that you teach your kids what they can do, but they get in these situations. Diddy preying on 13-year-olds, on 10-year-olds, on 30-year-olds. That is Diddy. It's not about what they're wearing. It's not about what they're doing. It's not about how much they drank. It doesn't matter if you go out blackout drunk and butt naked. It doesn't mean that you're asking for it. And I know that you're not saying, Catherine, that they're asking for it. You're not. But I'm just saying we have to get away from that mentality. We have to get away from that mentality. The only person to blame here, y'all, is Diddy. That's the only person. Anyways, there's a couple other questions here. We had a start here. Janelle, let's give Janelle, she have a super chat here. Did I put it up there? Hold on real quick. Janelle, thank you so much for the super chat. And why can I not hear? Oh, there it goes. There we go. And it says, she talking about JLo, she has something to hide. Yeah. It's been her silence has been deafening. Anyways, guys, that's our show. That's our show for today. This is another amazing stream with what I will say is the absolute best community out there. If you are not already part of our family, hit that follow, subscribe button on your platform of choice. If you want to follow on all of them, go to my website, JustInTheNickOfCrime. Under my picture, you can pick all the platforms, and I would appreciate it. We are on the road to 100,000 followers on Instagram. We're at 93,000 and change. We are on the road to 35,000 on YouTube, and we are at, I don't know, I want to say something like, I don't know, 33.9 is where we're at right now. So hit those subscribe button, hit those follow buttons, help me grow something free that you can do. We do these almost every day. We won't be doing it till probably again on Monday. Don't forget to turn on those notifications when we go live. Because you don't want to miss it and you don't always get notified otherwise. But thank you guys for making this stream and every other stream special, because none of this would exist without you guys. I appreciate y'all. Happy Halloween, and I will catch you next.